everybody, and welcome to another episode of Screen Time Continuum. My name is Nick, and I'm joined with the gentleman, Keelan. How are you?
Doing well. How about yourself?
All right. Thank you very much. And we got Mike. What's going on, Mike?
Man, everything going all right today.
That's good. Lovely to hear. I hope it's going all right for all of you out there as well. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight or whenever you're tuning in. We really appreciate it. If you like what we do here at Screen Time Continuum, consider giving us a thumbs up and a subscription to our YouTube page. It would really help us out. We're trying to build that audience. We're chugging along at 225 subscribers. So thank you all out there who subscribed. Really means a lot to us. We're a tiny channel, but we're mighty. And we appreciate all of you out there. And if you want to talk about the movie tonight, you're more than welcome to leave a comment in the comment section about what you thought, any questions you might have, or if you want to just talk to us, you can do that as well. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the 2023 movie, The Boogeyman. Yes, exactly. This came out in June of 2023, and it is based on a Stephen King book. And there was a movie back in 2005 as well that was also called The Boogeyman. I think that this is sort of a reboot, if you will, of the same type of property, but it's directed by Rob Savage, and it's written by Scott Beck, Brian Woods, and Mark Heyman. And it stars Sophie Thatcher, Chris Messina, Vivian Lyra Blair, and David Dasmalchian, who you'll remember from such movies as The Dark Knight and Polka Dot Man from Suicide Squad.
That's where I knew him from.
Yeah, he always plays the unstable guy.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he does, and he does it very well. So good on him. But yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about tonight, and I'll give you guys the synopsis really quick. Let's see here. Still reeling from the tragic death of their mother, a teenage girl and her young sister find themselves plagued by a sadistic presence in their house and struggle to get their grieving father to pay attention before it's too late. Yeah, this is rated PG-13. Again, it came out June 2023, and I'm going to hand it over to the gentleman for first impressions. So, Keelan. The Boogeyman.
I'm first. I got first leg. All right, cool deal.
Yes, sir.
The Boogeyman. I have no fear of the Boogeyman. I enjoyed watching the Boogeyman. I was confused, not at the least, of the Boogeyman.
Are you a vampire right now?
Yeah, that does sound like Dracula. I want to suck your blood.
Oh man, that's not PC.
No, sorry. Damn.
I don't know why I went with the Vladimir
blah blah blah
blah blah
blah blah. I don't know why. But it fit, I guess, for a boogeyman too.
Sure,
I don't know. What's a boogeyman accent? Blah, 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 blah.
Yes.
But overall, the Boogeyman movie, I wasn't sure what to expect. I was thinking about the one that came out in the early 2000s. And I was like, okay, this has to be something similar to that, which it is. But at the same time, it has a little different temperature, not in a bad way, not in a bad way at all. In fact, one of the things I enjoyed about this movie is I didn't feel like it had any of those blind beats. The moments in the movie where you go, oh, I can go grab something to eat right now. While it wasn't super exciting, all the moments of the movie kind of resonated with the point and the plot. Yeah, I'm not sure what else to say about this movie. Oh, something I do want to make sure I mention, he's a terrible dad.
Yes.
Top to bottom.
For no reason.
Dad. Say it again?
For no reason either.
Oh, yeah. I thought you said for good reason. I was about to be like, oh, I was love to get into that.
Actually, it probably goes along with what the current narrative in Hollywood is, though.
That dads don't exist, or men are...
No, men are incompetent at most everything.
Thank you. That's a better way of putting it, because I just had soft. That's it. Capital T.
You guys are going to spark a red alert. I'm going to have to put the sirens on.
Fire at the klaxon.
Yep.
So you know, by all means, that's one of my biggest takeaways from this movie is the dad was definitely not much of a father, friend, and or caretaker, and that was off-putting. But yes, Mike, I do think it was intentional, and I do think it fits that rhetoric, but on a level that was totally unnecessary in this scenario, because you could have a fully involved parent and this still be an effective movie.
Hmm.
So yeah. Um, outside of that, I don't really have any issues with the way anything played out. I thought there were some really good shots in this movie, style choices, and again, it's a Stephen King rendition or reanimation or however they want to call that remix.
Reimagining.
There you go, reimagining. So you can only really go so bad because the source material is usually that good. So yeah. With that being said, the Boogeyman.
Mm-hmm. All right. What about you, Mike? What did you think?
I'm gonna be honest with you guys. It's Stephen King. Outside of his political views, man, everything he touched, I like. However, there are aspects I didn't like, but
Be careful with statements
overall,
like
I did
that.
enjoy this movie. Huh?
I was just saying, be careful with statements like that.
Do I
It's
need
all
to
right.
say pause?
No.
No.
Did I
He's
miss
trying
something?
he's trying to trip you up, man. Don't worry
Oh,
about
okay.
it. That's
Nah, I'm a huge fan of his books and his movies, so I was ready.
right on. Yeah, I saw the trailer for this. This was one of my choices, and I thought that this could be a good spooky movie. Oh, you know what I found out, and I don't know if this is 100% true for all horror movies. I don't think it is, but there are a lot that we have seen in this genre, and they tend to be the PG-13 horror movies. 95% of it is interpersonal drama that's so boring I don't care about, and then 5% monster. I need more monster in my movies, man. I just do. I don't like this, like, I'm not going to let you see the monster until the very end, and that bugs the crap out of me. Plus, again, I'm not again, but there's some sort of inconsistencies here that make me unbelievable towards the whole movie. The idea of the boogeyman is super cool. I really like that. Again, I wish that we could have dived deeper into lore, and deeper into maybe the vindictiveness of what a boogeyman actually is, because they want to torture you as much as possible. And I don't really feel like we got that as much as we could have. There were elements of it, but there just wasn't enough for me to think, basically it turns into the Demogorgon at the end. And I'm just like, all right, well, that's cool, I guess. But this is supposed to be sort of like this nebulous specter that is like more psychic energy than anything else. It's not really physical. And so I was a little bit disappointed by that. And it's another dark movie. It's so dark. And when you have a monster that thrives in the dark, just turn your lights on. Why is their house only illuminated by tiny ass little lamps on a side table somewhere? Y'all don't have overhead lighting? What's going on here?
These are
Well,
energy conservation times.
I was about to say, haven't you been in America for the last 4 years? Power costs a lot of money.
Yeah, but even if they did LED lights, they could have floodlit the entire house pretty easily. So this idea that they could, like you have a monster that thrives in the darkness, and the first thing you do is turn the lights off and go to sleep. Just keep the lights on.
Sleep in the light.
Sleep in the light. Then you're golden. But yeah, no, I didn't hate the movie. I don't think that it was as good as I wanted it to be. I think it could have been more exciting. I found myself not interested at all in anything but the monster, and so that, I think, is where it fell flat for me.
Yeah,
but those are my first impressions.
With your first impression, something that I think is interesting, Nick.
Mm-hmm.
The monster thing, that is exactly why No One Will Save You was so good, as we all recall.
Yep.
We knew what the monster was. Like, honestly, I thought this monster and that monster was the same damn monster for a while.
Look kind of similar. Yeah.
Yeah. when you have that left and you're wondering about that, this isn't a monster movie.
No, it's a psychological horror thriller, but it's not even a horror. Like
Drama therapy.
yeah, I think the probably the movie suffers under the PG-13 rating because if you had put it into the R category, I think you could have dived deeper into the actual terror and horror that a boogeyman would provide. But at this point, it's more of like a nuisance than anything else.
Do you think this is more of a bogeyman than a boogeyman?
Well, the bogeyman and boogeyman are the same thing, but interesting. I was researching boogeymen after I watched this movie, and there are three types. There are the ones that punish children, the ones that like to commit violence, and the ones that like to protect others. So there are different types of boogeyman in the species.
What's the origin?
It comes from the word bogey, like Keelan said, and it's actually all over the world. I looked; there was probably about 40 different countries that have a boogeyman story.
Okay.
Yeah, everywhere on all continents, there's a boogeyman story.
And they think it's just to scare kids.
Right, exactly. Well, it might be truer than you think. All right. Well, yeah. So the crux of this story is that there's a boogeyman and there's a family, and I don't even remember their names. What were their names?
William, Sadie, and Sawyer.
Sawyer. Okay, thanks. Yeah. So Sadie and Sawyer are sisters, and their father is named William, and their mother tragically passed away a month ago in some type of accident.
I thought it was a year ago.
I thought they said it was. He said the kids hadn't been in school for a month, so I assumed that it was like a month.
I must have been smacking on my hot wings too hard because I swear he said a year.
Oh, maybe he did. Maybe I got it wrong. I don't know. But the mom is gone, and so we have another. I mean, like all the horror movies we see, there's a dead parent and the surviving parents trying to help the kids cope, and the kids are all messed up because they can't cope. Except for William is a psychiatrist who works from home, but then
he can't cope.
That's established early in the movie that he works from home because you see his kids at the door when he's having a session. But then for the rest of the movie, he is surprisingly nowhere to be found when the kids are having this like attack from a spirit.
Well, what I realized at the very beginning is he's nowhere to be found through all of it to begin with. The disconnect. So the immediate disconnect I realized was with the whole dress and going into the mom's art studio at the beginning of the movie. Is mom was the caretaker of the home. He works from home. I think now that he's lost his wife, I don't think he's ever been in the home because he's too busy being a therapist or a psychologist. And this is his first opportunity to have to take over, I believe, as a parent. And he's failing miserably. It doesn't realize he's failing because his job is to tell other people how bad their problems are, not to fix his own.
Right.
In what ways is he failing?
As a parent, specifically, just as a parent.
In what ways as a parent?
Not being present.
He's distant.
Like not being mentally and physically available to his kids.
Except that he's good to his youngest daughter. He does the whole monster check with her, and they have little inside jokes with each other. No, that was a shit monster check. That was a shit monster check. Why?
It was because you only check one side of the bed. You were not interested
under the bed. You can see the other side of a bed from if you have a clear bed. If you have a clear under bed, you can check one side and see across the other side.
I don't know about all that.
Yeah.
That's not how that works.
And he checks the closet. My point is that the movie does not necessarily say that he's a terrible father, especially to his younger daughter.
It doesn't. It does. Okay, but I'm sorry. You're right. Let me make that clear. The movie doesn't say he's a bad dad. I say he's a bad dad.
Yeah, I guess that's fine. And he's supposed to be portrayed that way, I guess. But the movie doesn't do a good job about showing us that he's not as good of a father as he could be.
I agree with that. The movie, in fact, doesn't do much of a good job of telling us much about him other than he's a therapist. We know more about his children, and we know more about the boogeyman by the end of this movie than we know about William. So,
yeah, I would have actually had him just just get rid of the dad and have it be the boogeyman the whole time. I'm cool
I
with that.
mean, legit. Him and moms could have went in an accident. That sounds so messed up to say, but
Yeah.
I say it that way because it could have made for a more
better
interesting
movie.
line to the story.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
think so too. I think at this point it's like, okay, so they're on their way back to school because their mom has been gone, and they're going back to school finally. And Sadie is what, 16, probably 15.
Ballpark, yeah,
Yeah.
15, 16.
15, 16-ish. So she's a sophomore somewhere around there in high school, and she's coming
Angsty.
back. Huh?
She's angsty.
Of course, the angsty daughter or
Oh,
teenager that never listens to their parents and doesn't appreciate them. And so she has a friend who's like got other friends, and it's like one of those situations where you get you have a best friend, but then your best friend leaves you for the cool kids. And
more like she left her best friend.
Did she leave her best friend?
Because she was at school
for like a month.
Yeah.
You know what? However long she was gone, her friend kind of left her first.
Yeah, because
she just lost her mom.
Yeah, I'm sure there was already a disconnect in their kids. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean that to say that she's got one best friend, but the best friend seems to have found a new clique of friends who don't really like Sadie, and she wears her mom's dress to school on her first day back, and then gets into an altercation with one of the chicks that's in the cool clique, who sort of says, should you be wearing your mom's dress if you're trying to get over her? And they get into a little bit of a spittle spattle, and the kid throws, was it ice cream?
No, she squishes the old lunch that she pulled out of her.
Oh, that's right. Right.
Yeah, the open yogurt in there.
Ruins her mom's dress, and she is very upset that she decides to leave school.
The power of, never mind, sorry.
Well, don't even go there, Keelan. And so she leaves school. I don't even know if the little kid goes to school. Little kid is like 7 or 8.
Yeah, I'm sure she's in like second grade, first grade.
We don't see her go to school, so.
But we do see her come home from school on the bus.
Okay, fair enough. So she does apparently go to school too, but when do we see the little girl sees the boogeyman first, right?
Right.
Yeah. So the first time, okay, so we can talk about the first time we see the boogeyman when we get to Lester arriving.
Right.
The little girl sees the boogeyman the night of Lester.
Yes. So Lester, okay, so yes. So the father is doing his little practice at home, and he just finishes up with a client, and then we see this flash of a person at the door, and this guy walks into the house and goes into the office of William and asks to be listened to. And he's, I mean, very much of the Sixth Sense sort of intruder fashion. What are you doing, bro? Just call the cops.
That's it.
Right.
Just call the cops. I want to comment.
Yeah.
Even with the calling the cops thing, here's another sign of being a bad dad. You run your practice out of your home. You don't have an alarm system, cameras, and you don't lock the door when you let your patients out.
Apparently, you're right. Yes, he's gotten too complacent in his comfort, because this guy is definitely unstable, and
right.
He is having a mental breakdown in which he discusses with William, who agrees to listen to him.
That doesn't have a gun in the house.
Of course, he doesn't have a gun in the house. Don't worry about that. He won't need it. He won't need it anyways. And this guy, Lester, is very distraught. He talks about how he lost his whole family, how his children died, basically. His one child died because of an accident, and then 1 year later, his 2 other children died back to back. And he claims that everybody thinks that it was him that killed his children, but it wasn't him. It was something else. And it was a something that was managed to be sketched by one of his kids, and shows the picture of Slender Man. Dun, dun, dun.
You mean?
Nah, that's what that was, Mike. You know what Slender Man is.
Man, I was gonna say a couple of different monsters that it could have been
True.
because it was kind of like an amalgamation of different things.
Hmm.
Because it could have been the it spider. I mean, you can choose.
Yeah,
True. And it could have been the no one will save you spider.
Yeah,
yeah,
could have
it
been the
looked like that.
Demogorgon, like you
Could have
said.
been Demogorgon.
A
Yep.
demon inside of a demon.
Right.
Well, that's definitely part of what it is, apparently. And so, yes, this introduces the concept that Lester's family or his children might have been picked off by the boogeyman. But he makes a very important point to say that the first child died of an accident.
Yeah.
So, what we find out through implication and a little bit of lore of the boogeyman is that they prey upon children that are being neglected and not being watched.
Hence, bad dad.
Right. So he's a bad dad because we had to, I don't know, put lore in there for some reason. Even though it's actually supposed to punish children for being bad and not the parents. But so Lester is still in the house for some reason, even though William goes out of he does the classic, I need to go to the bathroom real quick.
Soon as I tell you some super disturbing shit, I need to make a phone call.
Yeah, no, he didn't even say the phone call. He said, I need to go to the bathroom real quick.
Right.
Gets right on that landline. It goes doot doot doot, and then is on the phone with the police, which doesn't seem to matter because some time passes and Sadie is home, and she's washing her mother's dress, and Lester is apparently upstairs where she is.
Well, something I noticed, we didn't see Sadie come home, but we heard a clatter, like a banging. Then we saw him go up the stairs.
Right. And so Sadie's freaked out because she's hearing weird noises, and this is a dark ass house with no lamps. So everything is creepy and all the floorboards are creaky and old.
Real quick, something else that was noted: a bad parent and a bad child, because this is a teenager we're talking about. This isn't the 7-year-old. You enter your home where you know your dad practices holds his practice, has patients in and out all day long. You don't let anybody know you're home. You just go creeping through the house with AirPods in, so you can't hear anything and nobody knows you're there.
Yeah, with no lights on again. Dark ass house. Even in the middle of the day, the house is dark.
Yeah.
I kept telling myself,
Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Sabrina had better lighting. I'm not gonna. It was incredible. I was looking at this house. I'm like, there's not one window in this house. It is noon, and the house looks like it's 8 o'clock at night.
It's more like the Hocus Pocus house.
It's bizarre, man. It's super bizarre. I don't get it. I think it's just stylistic choice because, they want things to look a little bit darker. But so Sadie's freaking out because she's hearing weird noises from her room, and she arms her. Well, actually, she's in the art study of her mother, right? Because she finds that there was paint that was spilled and her mother's painting had been knocked onto the floor.
The whole studio was trash, no?
Right. The studio was trash. And then she looks at this door that's supposed to be like a closet, I think. And she hears noises coming from there, and she opens the door and there's nothing there. But then her father jumps in and says, "Are you okay?" And then the door slowly closes and it looks like Lester has hung himself by the door.
Sad face.
Very sad. Very sad. Everybody's traumatized. As one would be, I guess, if a crazy man.
Boy LES, man.
It was who?
Said that was the boy LES, man. Good dude. Good dude.
Good dude.
Les.
Shout outs to Les. Yeah, so everybody's super disturbed. The police come, and this is when little girl comes home, Sawyer. Because she comes home on the bus and there's a whole bunch of cops and everything. And
I do want to comment on, why are all of the kids in this movie assholes?
All of them are. I think
even
maybe
Sawyer's little friends, like, you think your dad's dead now too? Like, bitch,
man, disrespectful.
Like, who raised these kids?
Man, I wouldn't even call them savages. They just pieces of shit.
Yeah,
That's
that's
it.
just heartless, man. That's just
Because
heartless.
that was. But I like how the movie is basically painting like these kids have become desensitized to what emotions are, like how to not violate certain things. But geez, like she did the high school kids. It was like, okay, high school kids are a bit pretentious anyway. But the elementary school kid kind of broke my heart. Like, damn.
Man, everybody.
That was dark. Yeah. What happens after that? The police come and they take the body away, and then the interview, or the girls ask one of the police officers a question because Sadie says that she heard some very strange noises when she opened the closet, and the cop is like, "Well, you heard somebody hang themselves from a door. You're going to hear some weird noises."
Yeah, some
Yeah,
but
which makes
that's
sense.
bad. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say that's bad dad move number 3. I told you you couldn't talk to my child, and I'm still standing here.
Yeah, but she said it was okay. The cop said, no, let them ask.
Like I said, I just said you can't talk to my child.
Right.
We couldn't do that. We couldn't do that. You can't do that, man. You must answer all of the police's questions. Yeah, so the day continues into the evening, and the girls are traumatized, but the bad father puts his 8-year-old daughter back into bed by herself.
Sleeping alone. Yep. You already knew I was gonna say it. I'm glad you said it. Sleeping by her. How you let that baby sleep by herself after somebody just,
off themselves in your house? Right.
I don't know, because it's a haunted house, and that's how every parent in a haunted house acts. It's like, okay, go back to your haunted room where the monster is.
Get back in here.
No, it's not haunted. See, and you know what? That's something else I noticed by this point in the movie. I remembered that he's a psychologist or a therapist himself, and they always have all the answers. Everything's always okay, and there's always a solution or a reason. Right. So there was no reasoning from the fear of a child versus his intellect as a professional.
Yeah, everything can be sort of shoehorned away as PTSD or trauma or overactive imagination, which
You're just tired.
Yeah, I guess in the proper hands could have played a little bit better. But this movie doesn't necessarily give you any psychological thriller. It's all just a build-up for the last 5 minutes, which can be serviceable sometimes. That's not terrible. Like sometimes you want that, where there's this big climactic moment after a lot of buildup. But what I found is just I wasn't interested in the family dynamics. I just didn't care. And so it made it kind of tedious to watch. But we get the first boogeyman attack really on the girls when Sawyer's trying to go to sleep, and she has this sort of like glowing moonlight that is kind of an interesting stylistic choice. I guess that would probably be a reference to Stephen King and maybe The Shining, because the little boy had the Apollo 11 sweater on, and this little girl has the moon. So something like that.
I thought it was the Eye of Sauron.
It could be that too. And since nobody in this house has a flashlight, this little moonlight is really the only thing that is keeping that little girl alive right now. So,
damn.
Yep. They do the one interesting shot in the movie where she drops the moonlight onto the ground to go check for the monster under the bed, and the camera flips upside down with the character, which is an interesting shot. But stylistically, that's the only one that stood out to me. She doesn't see the boogeyman, and then she does, and it's on the other side of the bed, and it starts to skitter at her. And she freaks out and runs into Sadie's room.
She freaks out and falls first, doesn't she?
Probably. You got to help me fill in some of the gaps here, because
I think she falls and hits her head, and then she runs into Sadie's room.
Right.
And that's when they go to remove the tooth and all of that. And then Sadie gets that first notion that something's wrong, because Sadie goes to close it. She tells her stop. She stops, but it closes anyway.
Right.
And Sadie knows she didn't do that.
Right.
Yes, yes. That gives her the first clue that something strange is happening. But this is also right after she's trying to conjure the soul of her mother.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, we doing seances and okay.
In the haunted house? Come on.
I see what we
Where the
doing
guy
here.
just killed himself.
Yes, yes. Where's the book of Latin? Jeez.
Yeah. Just
Eating human blood.
assume the only
Yeah.
entity around is gonna be your mom when that just happened here. Got it.
Like she's watching a YouTube video on how to conduct a seance. It's like
Mhm.
first get some pig's blood and draw a pentagram on the ground.
You need black candles.
Yes, black candles. Yes, yes. You know, depending on your flavor, either you can get some, you know, like frog's legs or boiled newt or chicken bones. Or
Eye of newt.
eye of newt.
Little Palo Santo.
Little Palo Santo. There you go. Yeah, just
Damn.
bring in all the cultures. Bring in all the cultures.
Put everything together.
Yeah.
Blend it up. You might get a Powerpuff Girl at the back end.
There you go.
Sugar and spice.
So Sadie and Sawyer are on to something. They know that something weird is happening in the house. Obviously, Dad is still oblivious. What happens after the tooth thing? This kind of gets blurry for me because this was like the midpoint where not a lot of happens.
Yeah. So right before the tooth, Dad went in to talk to Sadie and you know, sat down and tried to have a little heart-to-heart with Sadie, and Sadie starts opening up to him and he goes, have you talked to your therapist about it? And kind of just like, oh, you should talk to your therapist. She's like, nigga, I'm trying to
Bad dad.
talk to you, player. Wait, sorry. But she's like, dang, Pops, I'm trying to tell you. I'm trying to talk to you. And he not feeling that. But another, yeah, like Mike said, that's like number 5 on the bad dad scale. But then the next thing we see is them actually go to the therapist. Sadie and Sawyer together go to a therapist. They're trying to convince her to get Dad in. The therapist is trying to convince Dad to come into therapy. He ain't trying to do it. And he kind of gets angry with the therapist, like, you know, I can handle this on my own. And it's like, well, how about you therapize your own kids, asshole?
Or just talk to them. You don't need to be a therapist.
Right. They just need their dad to be present.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they don't need therapy. They need a dad.
So the therapist sits down with Sawyer and Sadie to conduct a exposure treatment therapy with a demonic cube that glows a crimson red that looks like blood-stained, tint. That's
creepy.
It was so red that it was blowing out the pixels on my screen.
Damn.
It was like that was the only bright moment in the movie, and it was just totally
Super
red.
Yeah.
And so the idea of the exposure therapy is that this cube is going to turn on, and then it's going to start to flicker gradually and then completely turn off. And that's supposed to help Sawyer with her fear of the dark. And of course, like we all suspect, the cube starts to flicker in this demonic red light, and the pauses between it being on and off get longer, and you see that Sawyer is terrified holding her sister, and she looks up into the corner of the room, and there is the Slender Man.
The Demigorgon, you mean?
The Boogie Gorgon. That's what we're gonna call it. The Boogie Gorgon.
The Boogie Man.
Yeah.
It's funny. I just called it the Lester, and then I had a different thought.
Damn.
Well, don't do that.
Yeah, man.
Be careful. I didn't do that.
They did do that. Yeah, and so she gets really scared, but then the light comes on, and there's nothing there, as if it was all in her imagination. But
there's something there.
There's a puddle.
Well, yes, she pees herself, but it's interesting that nobody else saw it.
Yeah,
because no one was
looking up.
She was the only one looking at it. She didn't bother saying, "Hey guys, you see that thing in the corner that's
basically
looming over us?"
Sadie was facing the other way, and the doctor was too busy staring at Sawyer in a creepy way.
Very creepy way. Yeah.
Y'all don't see that spotted demon?
Yeah, it's literally in the corner.
You don't see that demon coming at us?
And so, if it's not an apparition, how did it disappear from the room when the therapist turned the light on?
So what my theory is although it is physical, it is real, it really does move that fast. At least in the light, like to get away from the light. It's like a, you know how
like a
in
cockroach.
certain vampire lore. Say again, like
Like a
cockroach.
cockroach. Yeah.
You know how in certain vampire lore, when the sun or they get close to the sun, they kind of like have this defense mechanism where they automatically retreat.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of, I think it's like that. Like it just runs, it scurries away so fast that it uses the top of the max ability of its speed. Because
Maybe.
of survival instinct.
Yeah. They could have also left it as an apparition because that's what a real boogeyman is. It's not necessarily always physical. Most of the time it's imaginary.
Yeah. But if you could shoot it, it's real.
Yeah, right. And you can shoot it a lot apparently, and like the Demigorgon, it just gets right back up. Yeah. So after the therapy session, everybody's re-traumatized, and
Dad's apologizing for letting Lester in the house, but he don't want to talk about nothing. Even for his kids, he won't talk about his wife. But this is when Sadie Googles Lester, sees his face again, and then goes through Dad's trash to find his address and gets Bethany to take her there the next day. Right. What I thought was interesting is during the time she goes to meet or basically goes to his house and ends up meeting the wife. During that same period of time, it's like Sawyer was being harassed or taunted by it.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, that's interesting because that's daytime. That wasn't nighttime.
Right. But their house is so dark that it can move around in the daytime.
You're right. You are right.
Just open a window, you guys. You'll be fine.
Right. The electric spark in Lester's house, I thought was just not a good stylistic choice because that could have just sparked a fire the whole time. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, also we find out that as Sadie goes through Lester's house, she finds that Lester's wife is still alive.
Right.
And
also,
why is a mess?
The veins that are all over the house is she's upstairs where they centralize from. That made me think for a long time she wasn't a real person.
Right. Yeah. I don't know why she's still in the house, if I'm being honest.
I'm sure she ain't got nowhere to go.
Also, the entire second floor is covered in like 1/4-inch tall candles, as if that's going to stop anything.
No,
just go to the hardware store and get some floodlights. Jeez, I mean, honestly.
She had some.
Blows them out.
Well, why did she have the whole?
She didn't have enough.
Didn't have enough, but she had 200 candles to put down.
I wonder if the power was out. Where was she running electricity from?
She diverted.
Stop making sense.
Yeah, she diverted all the electricity for her booby traps, I think.
Right.
Oh, into that one floodlight. Got it.
Right.
Keep telling you to stop making sense.
I told you. I'm sorry. I'll tell you every time I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's kind of dumb. But she confronts Lester's wife. We find out that this boogeyman is a monster that sort of hunts people, and you don't want to mess with it, and that likes to stay in the dark and all of that stuff. So let's see. Sadie gets sufficiently scared and runs out of the house.
Well, Sadie gets scared because Rita, I think her name was, decided to shoot a shotgun 3 inches past her head so that she can shoot the boogeyman.
Oh, right, because it was right behind her.
Don't move, stand real still. Is right by. Bow. What? That's slow Joe, and you get by that.
All of a sudden, it's just.
Right.
Can't hear shit.
You said be quiet.
Yeah. So Sadie runs out of the house, obviously, as she should, because a shotgun blast just rang out, and she goes back home, and then there's some other stuff with the little kid, and then Sadie has friends over. What happens?
Well, they talk about really quick before all of that happens. She did talk to Rita about how Rita believes it's been around since the beginning of time. Right. That cavemen had to develop fire to get away from this particular thing. And it's just lurked in the shadows since the beginning of existence. But yeah, pretty much after that, let's see. Oh, the middle of the night, you hear bang. They hear bang in the middle of the night. Sadie and Sawyer both open their doors. Dad is cleaning up Mom's art room, and Sadie is all mad. They get into a spittle spattle, and Dad decides, well, hey, you know what? You're right. You can have an attitude about this, but now you get to help me clean this shit up. So here, take this to the basement. And of course, her going to the basement, she has to now interact with it firsthand because it's definitely going to attack her.
Right.
And it does.
Dun-dun-dun.
It does. So she goes to the basement.
She finds the weed, her mom's weed.
Well, that's
yeah. After. So yeah, she goes to the basement. Sadie calls for her mom, but the boogeyman responds. And then the next day is when she goes, has a discussion with Bethany. They become friends again. They set up a sleepover. She smokes her mom's weed with the friends at the sleepover. And I was thinking to myself,
wait a minute,
so
sidebar.
Already rolled joint that mom had already rolled and hit. What if that was DMT and not fucking weed?
Sidebar note real quick. Is this the third movie where they didn't have like 20-year-old weed consumption?
Yes.
I think so, yeah.
Some ancient nugs. And
so what they telling us is they smoking too early. You gotta let it cure for 20 years.
I think that her mom was probably one of those boomer hippie ladies that like took like 2 light hits and was like, "Ooh, I'm stoned." just puts the joint out. Go through 1 joint in a month.
That's man.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine.
But so yeah, they come over for a sleepover. They smoke. They end up locking Sadie in a closet because that one girl Nat's a bitch. Why was she even there? I did not understand. Like maybe I don't understand high school girls, and I understand that too. But why would you invite the one girl that was the meanest to you to the sleepover? Everybody else, all right, cool. They at least trying. But
yeah. Well, that to me just reinforces more that it was just her friend that got new friends.
Bringing them around,
and she was trying to pawn them off on her.
Yeah.
So they wanted to go see where Lester hung himself, and then they basically locked her in that area, and she freaks out. And then they claim that the door wouldn't open,
which I believe
when she gets out. It's possible
because that's when she does see it in there.
And then she slaps the taste out of Becky's mouth.
As she should.
I like that part.
She should have hit Becky in that hallway at school when Becky made that. They said squishing yogurt on herself, or was getting mad. Bow, Becky, or what was her name? No, Natalie.
Same.
Catch these hands.
Catch these hands.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she freaks out. The girls end up leaving, and then we see the boogeyman creeping around Sawyer, and then Sawyer gets thrown into the TV, and I'm like, oh no, did they just perforate that baby's eardrum and spine? Like, what just happened?
Man,
at the beginning of this movie, we saw a baby just get murdered.
Yeah, we did. We never. I thought we were gonna round back to that. You're right. The very first thing we see is the boogeyman calling the baby's name, picking the baby up out of the crib, and blood splatter.
Yeah. At this time, it seems like it wants to take its time because why, Mike?
Plot.
There you go.
Could be rabies in this situation.
Or rabies, because there's a lot of stuff on the walls.
That's true. Yes, it is quite a rabid animal, so that makes sense too. So Sawyer gets thrown at the TV, and she's knocked unconscious, and their dad comes and is freaking out, right?
Yeah, and then they take him to the hospital. Sawyer wakes up in the hospital. Sadie goes to find Dad, tells him what she saw, that she saw the same thing. And he's like, was it the weed? I smelled weed on you. And it's like,
really, isn't that always the excuse?
Really, Stephen A? The weed.
It was the weed, man.
What you smoke? Right. You drinking that wine, smoking that tweed.
Yeah. The tweed, a little bit of tweed. But yeah, so Sadie ends up
getting angry again.
She gets a call from Lester's wife and ends up leaving because Lester's wife has a solution. And immediately I'm like, either that's not Lester's wife or don't trust that desperate ass woman.
Suspicious.
Don't be suspicious. And she was. Isn't that suspicious?
Well, it doesn't necessarily make sense that Rita would even care anymore. The boogeyman wouldn't come after her.
Right. She ain't got no kids for it to eat.
Right.
True. But I just want to ask again, just to get the point across. Isn't that suspicious?
It is a little suspicious, and it's not superstitious.
Isn't that superstitious?
Yeah. Yeah, so she goes over to Rita's house, and they're like she's got a whole room booby trapped with tripwire and shotguns.
Right. Slams her face into the wall and uses her as bait.
Right.
But you gotta trust me, ma'am. Trust me.
I don't even know you. You shot a shotgun near my head.
Man. Which is why I don't understand why she went back. Like desperate.
So it works, and the boogeyman is lured to the room, and as soon as it trips the wire, it gets lit up multiple times from 12 gauge shotgun rounds, I would assume, and crumples to the floor. And Rita is a smart person. She puts 2 more into the monster, because that's what you should do in every horror movie. If it's lying down, shoot it a couple times more.
Just probably don't smile maniacally, because that usually means you ain't hitting it where you think you
yeah. Don't celebrate too early either, as Rita will find out, because she thinks that after shooting it, I'd say a dozen times, that it's dead, but apparently not.
No, because it can bleed. But does that mean it can die? Oh,
but it can burn, I guess.
Yeah, it can. But we'll get to that.
It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but I guess it's just to sort of escalate things further.
I think it burning actually does make sense. So, well,
the Demigorgon burned.
I think it's the darkness inside of them is flammable.
I think this was actually one of the creators yes.
It's plausible, but yeah, I think that that there's sulfur in them, like demonic things. They smell of sulfur, so I think that's what makes them flammable.
Yeah, I never got that. I don't know why demonic or sort of hellions would be susceptible to fire, but all right.
It never makes sense to me either. But the sulfur thing.
Fire is a cleanser,
right?
So they live in cleanliness.
Yes, they're very clean down in hell in that lake of fire.
No, what I mean is it's the great purifier. The fact that hellfire is not regular fire, it's not going to be. The theory would be that it's not the same as regular fire, because fire is a purifier. It's supposed to burn away all the demonic, whatever.
So
it's not regular fire, it's purifier.
Right. Is that the difference between the yellow flame and the blue flame?
Probably something like that. Yeah, sure. Why not? I mean, for the sake of argument.
Yeah, why not?
This is all theory. None of this is it's not actual factual.
Right.
At least, nothing I can prove.
So the Boogey-Gorgon gets lit up by all the shotgun blasts, but then still manages to get up and start fighting Rita. Sadie gets to run away. Is Rita dead? Rita's dead, right?
Rita got ripped in half.
Right. Okay.
Rita became Repulsa.
Yeah, she did. So Sadie is now out on the streets, in these streets, and she calls her dad, and she finds out that her dad and her sister are going back home, and she freaks out because that means
snatched into the darkness.
Yes, the boogeyman is already headed there, and they get snatched up, and she has to run over to the house to find them.
And at first I had an issue with this, because I'm like, okay, so now the boogeyman went from being a real thing to fantastical again, because it got from that house to that house so fast.
Right.
But she also got there on foot, and it's way faster than her. So then to me, I'm like, well, I guess that makes sense. If she can get there on foot, it's faster than her. It just went out the window and went to her house.
Yeah. I mean, I would buy that it could move at supernatural speeds in the darkness. Yeah. Like if like Shadow was its medium, then it could teleport between Shadow.
Or the speed of light has the speed of Shadow.
Right. There you go. Yeah.
I think that's what they were hinting at, honestly.
Right. So the boogeyman has captured them, and she's what the fuck is her name? I just lost it again. Sadie's running home. She's looking through the house, and she finds her sister in one of the closets or the bathroom, and she's got Christmas lights around her, like Stranger Things.
Yes, just like
Yeah.
Stranger Things.
Yeah. Which I guess is kind of a good idea. You want to make sure that you got light around you. I don't know why they don't have flashlights. They all have phones.
Yeah.
No flashlights, huh?
Didn't even think to use those.
No. Well,
How
all
dare
right.
you make sense?
Yes. So Sadie finds Sawyer, and Sawyer lets Sadie know that the boogeyman has Dad in that other room.
The basement.
In the basement, right. So they have to go down to the basement to get their dad back. And this is the big battle against the boogeyman.
The boogie oogie. Ironically, I knew at some point we were going to have to get back to Mom's lighter. We saw the paint thinner get knocked over by Sawyer.
They made too much of a thing to make sure you saw it and knew about its existence.
Yeah.
Right.
And they only used it the one time to hit that joint, and only the friend could get it lit. And I'm wondering, how did Dad get the lighter? Because Sadie had it the whole time until that moment. And it was supposed to be upstairs in her bedroom.
Mike knows why.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pretty much.
Yes.
Because that bothered me, because I was like, man, they need that lighter, but it's upstairs in her. Oh, you got the lighter now? You hadn't got all beat up. Now you got the lighter.
Right.
After your legs broke.
Oh, his ankle just snapped in half, man.
I mean, it didn't just snap in half. He definitely got thrown across the room.
He did, but then he tried to get up on his feet, and his ankle just crumpled.
Just crumpled,
yeah. So
that's
not good. Not good. And I don't know how those two little girls got him back on his feet, but they managed to do that.
Strong. Movie strong.
Very, very strong. And the girls fight off the boogeyman and eventually use the mom's lighter to throw at the boogeyman, who has inadvertently gotten him. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Sawyer splashes the kerosene on him.
Right.
Yes.
And don't forget, Mom came to help too, because she had been praying to Mom this whole time and told that spirits can be there to watch over you. So when the lighter started dying out and there was no more fluid left, all of a sudden it had the largest flame that was about 2 feet tall. And she was able to not only use the aerosol until it ran out, but then once Sawyer got the kerosene, threw that on him, or whatever. It was probably kerosene. That's realistic.
It's a Hanukkah miracle, you guys.
And then she set him ablaze. I thought that when they set him on fire, that it was just going to burn him and all the veins and stuff. I didn't think the house was going to burn down, and that was going to bother me. So I'm kind of glad the house burned.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense, right? Because it's laying its veins in the house somehow, like Vecna.
Right. And
this movie really is just Stranger Things.
How dare you, sir?
This movie is really just Stranger Things, isn't it? It's got veins, it's got Christmas lights, it's got demigorgons.
Stylistically for that monster, yeah, actually.
Yeah. I did like the decision to have the boogeyman's mouth open up for another entity to crawl out of it. That was kind of cool. Kind of reminded me of the Wendigo, though.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit. And antlers, yeah.
Dang. But yeah, basically what happens, the house burns, the demon burns, they get Dad out of there, they watch the house burn, nobody comes to help, but all of a sudden we see everything is good and they're sitting in therapy together. Oh, and at first we're gonna think that Sadie ain't learned nothing and she going creeping through the doctor's office and about to open a door that opened by itself, but instead she closes it and the black woman asks her, "What you doing in here?"
Yeah.
Doing drugs.
Why did they have to go to therapy?
Because they're crazies.
Their father would not talk to them about the grief and loss of their mother, and therapy solves everything.
Ugh, I know.
Oh, you didn't know?
You know what happened is we had way too many people get therapist degrees in college, and now we need to justify the need for therapy.
Well, remember, there was a time where people went and got sociology and psychology degrees because they were told you could get that degree easy and you don't have to actually use it.
Mm-hmm.
I actually remember people saying that at college or like university orientations. You'd be sitting there like, did they just say that?
Oh yeah. It was like sociology and communications.
Mm-hmm.
Those were always the two, right?
It's like, even now as an adult, I look back and I go, that's some icy shit to say.
Yeah. But then the movie's over because everybody went to therapy. And now they don't have trauma.
Works, guys.
It does. keeps the boogeyman away. Even though it's an immaterial being that shouldn't be killed so easily. I guess it's just one of the many in the species, right?
Yeah. And I think the end of this movie was kind of alluding to that. Like the boogeyman's never gone because the boogeyman is of your own imagination, so to speak. It comes to you for what you need, I guess. That's so weird to say.
I kind of wish they ripped off the boggart a little bit from the Harry Potter creature, the boggart. The one that they keep in the closet that manifests itself as your worst fear.
Oh, yeah.
That would have been kind of cool. Because it didn't do a lot of the like things I was expecting a boogeyman to do, which is like more psychologically torment and get in the person's head.
I did expect more torture.
I don't think this movie had the budget for it.
It didn't have the rating for it. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
PG-13. Yeah. They just had to make it an animalistic sort of monster, which I guess is fine, but I would have liked it a little bit more sophisticated and sadistic.
Yeah, I would have liked for this to at least somehow be a cautionary tale of some sort. Like, what's the message?
If you don't go to therapy,
neglect your kids.
Yeah, if you don't go to therapy, your kids will die.
Damn.
I mean, yeah, there's nothing else there.
That's the lesson. Yeah,
there's nothing else there. You're kind of right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that's it for us for the movie, guys. Are we ready for final thoughts, ratings, final thoughts?
Yeah, final thoughts. Take care of your babies, or it's gonna get snatched by the bogey.
Mm-hmm.
Man, the boogity man.
Yes, sir.
Hey, wait, Oogie Boogie is a good boogeyman, so we're not gonna bring him in. Just saying. Yeah. King Oogie Boogie.
That's right.
We're such children. Shoot, I go first. So yeah,
go
final
ahead.
Thoughts. I did like this movie. I think from the beginning impressions, I'm pretty sure I like this more than Nick. But talking about it, I still feel like somehow, which always happens, we fall kind of in the same territories on where we stand on some of these things and how the movie played out.
Mm-hmm.
The way this movie was shot and played back, I personally can't find a lot of hot points to really nitpick on, but there are some things, some style changes and things that I think with a bigger budget, like Nick saying, with a different rating, or even like not, and this isn't even a gripe. Usually I'll say things like this because it's like, oh, you did a bad job, but maybe with someone different in the decision-making chair, or at least sitting right there to throw new ideas out there rather than something that had already been done, like Stranger Things or Wendigo stories. If there was somebody to throw just a little freshness into this story, I think this movie could have been a lot better. With that, I'm going to give this a 4 or 5.
Okay.
Fair enough.
I think, what do you think, Mike? What are you going to give it?
I gave it a solid 5. Because for me, it's just another horror movie. I don't expect Oscar performances. You know what I mean? I don't expect this super dope movie like a Marvel movie. I don't have those kind of expectations for them. I just expect to be entertained, and this movie entertained me.
Okay.
So I gave it a solid 5. All horror movies lack some story. They all lack a little bit of something, especially when it comes to a creature feature. But I still enjoyed it. I enjoyed how awful some of the characters are. I enjoyed how awful the monster reveal kind of was too, because it was still just a decent movie and it was a horror movie. Those are cheap and easy to do. So solid 5.
Okay. Yeah. I am giving this a 3-5. I find it a little bit too slow for my liking. I find a lot of the movie just interpersonal issues between the characters that I don't really care about. I thought it was too darkly lit in a lot of respects. I like the creature. I think the creature is interesting, but it would have been so much cooler. Like, they hint at with some of the lore about how, it's been around since the dawn of time. I would have liked a little bit more sophistication from the creature then. if it's been hunting humans and tormenting humans since humans existed, I would love to feel that and feel like this thing is a threat, because at the end of this, we just get like this sort of inept monster that can't really do what it set out to do, which kind of runs afoul of what you think when you think of something like this. So it's a 3-5 for me. It's not like I don't hate it, but I probably wouldn't go back to it again. For a creature movie, something like No One Will Save You, I think sets the bar, at least this year. And this could have been in, for me, in the 6 or 7 range if they had just boned up on the monster a little bit, maybe played down some of the interpersonal stuff. I don't really need to know about what the kids think about these kids, like the school dynamic didn't really need to be here. Everything is mostly contained in one house, so we could have just kept it that way, and that might have been fine too. But yeah, so it's a 3-5 for me.
Nice.
Yeah. Mm.
All right, so that gives us
you gave it a 4-5?
13 out of 30, so about 4-7.
13 out of 12 divided by 3 is 4, and then 1 divided by 3 is 0.3. So
or 4-3.
Yeah, 4-3.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not bad at all.
No.
I don't think the creators of this movie would have thought, if they watch our channel, I don't think they would have thought we would give this a 4-3.
Yeah, I don't know how much you could ask more of it. I think that Mike is on the higher end of it, but that's because he's seen so many horror movies that he can differentiate between the nuances here.
Yeah,
right.
The decent and the terrible, and
yes,
I agree. This is in the decent category, though.
It's not terrible. I'm not going to say that. That we've definitely seen terrible movies. So.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
all right. Well,
we're not gonna name them and give them no light tonight, neither.
No. All right, guys. So you guys good? Do you have anything else you want to add?
Nope.
No. I actually was surprised that this was what it was. I thought it would be less entertaining. So glad we did it.
Fair enough. Yep. Thank you guys for listening. That's The Boogeyman. It is a 4.3 out of 10 for us. What did you guys rate it? Do you like it? Do you hate us? Let us know. Do you hate us? You can let us know that too. That's fine. Please consider giving us a thumbs up and a subscription. It would really help us out. Also hit that notification bell and it will notify you when we are going to go live. And yeah, we really appreciate all of you out there. Thank you again for tuning in. We hope that you have a wonderful evening, or whenever you're listening to this. It really means a lot to us. We're just a few guys that like to talk about movies and stuff. And so anybody who enjoys our content is a friend, and we thank you very much for that. If you want to check out the archive of podcasts that we have, because we have a long list of podcasts that we have put in the archives, you can check out this page here. There's a podcast for any type of flavor that you like. If Numbers Could Talk is a solid numbers-based podcast where you can get stats and figures about sports and movies and TV shows and maybe some other stuff from Keelan. So go check out If Numbers Could Talk. Screen Time Continuum, you're here every Wednesday and Sunday, and we thank you for that. Now, Twitch is where you go to check out Mike at king_of_Ilion, where he streams all the time. So make sure you hit that notification bell and subscribe to his channel at king_of_Ilion. While you're at Twitch, you can always go check out Dijon, a friend of the show, at Strawberries and Coffee as well. If you're a fan of the esoteric and the mythological, you can go check out Exofathom. That has a lot of episodes. I think there's probably about 150 for you to go choose from. Anything between mythology and psychology, a little bit of parapsychology as well. Go check out Exofathom. And This Married Moment, if you want to hear about what couples think about certain things, how they communicate with each other, how they deal with the dynamics of relationships, you can go check out This Married Moment. All right, guys. Are we good?
We are good.
I believe we are golden.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. We really appreciate it. Tune in next week, Wednesday at 8:30 or 9 p.m. actually, Wednesday 9 p.m. We will be back for Screen Time Continuum. I am Nick.
I am Keelan.
And I'm Mike.
We appreciate you guys. Hey, be sure that when you guys turn off your lights, run faster than it takes the light to go off. Like beat the speed of light, or
Yes.
you might get tripped up by the boogeyman.
Or just
True.
carry a flashlight.
Oh yeah, huh?